This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
Thank you for joining us on the News at 11. I'm Amanda Starantino.
And I'm Mark Mullins. We start tonight with the demonstrations taking place across the country and here in Indianapolis. The death of a black man, George Floyd, at the hands of a now former police officer has set off outrage and calls for justice. That former officer was charged with manslaughter today, but demonstrators are calling for action against all of the officers involved in Floyd's death and an end to police brutality.
And a demonstration has been taking place for several hours now in downtown Indianapolis. We're going to get right to RTV6's Cameron Riddle. Cameron, I've been watching your Facebook Live. You've been on the RTV6 Facebook page, and a lot of things have been changing just in the past 15 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of things have just changed in the last 90 seconds, too. On this side, things appeared to look clear, but I assure you, it's actually not. We were walking through the streets of Indianapolis, and just 3-4 minutes ago, the police, we were at the back of the line following the protesters who are now down there at the Capitol. But as the police came this way, they stopped and protesters started to engage. So what was the back where we were at became the front, and police started throwing tear gas. We just got tear gassed a few seconds ago. You can see right under the light, there's another one of the many tear gas bombs. That's hot, man, that's hot, it's hot. That, as you can see, is fresh. That's how hot it is because it just happened. I know we got to go this way, Dave. As you can see down toward the Capitol, those are protesters who, up until the police just tear gassed everyone, were peaceful. Now windows are being broken just past that Jack's Donuts restaurant and those buildings right in front of the state Capitol. I just saw someone bashing in the windows. This is a scene that looks a lot like other scenes happening across the country. Tonight, we talked with the Fraternal Order of Police President, Rick Snyder, about how this situation has boiled into this. Of course, this started with George Floyd getting shot and killed, Drayshawn Reed getting shot and killed earlier in this month. But then earlier this week, George Floyd killed by Minneapolis police. And the police that we talked to say all of this should have never happened because they can't understand how police let that happen.
As a human being and as a Christian, I'm dismayed by what we have seen.
As cities around the nation protest the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, police in Indianapolis say the actions of former officer Derek Chauvin are inexcusable.
As an officer, I'm completely disappointed, frustrated. As I'm known for saying, I am outraged.
On Twitter, Indianapolis Police Chief Randall Taylor says after 30 years in law enforcement, he cannot understand or justify the actions captured on video. Rick Snyder couldn't believe what he watched.
I was yelling at my television. I was yelling, get off of him. Why are you doing that? And then yelling about, why don't you turn him on his side, step back? The things that we're trained to do. Why aren't you doing that? I can't explain that. I can't wrap my mind around what was the decision-making that was occurring.
Snyder is the president of the Indianapolis Fraternal Order of Police. He says kneeling on a person's neck is not in any training manual.
It's not even we're not trained to do that. We're trained not to do that.
Snyder says even beyond the arrest, there were a number of poor decisions made in the aftermath by Minneapolis police.
The tactics and quite honestly, the lack of intervention like we saw overnight with the burning down of the police precinct and all the other property damage and loss of life.
All right. Okay. Hey, we are right in the middle of this. As I said, we tried to get we were at the back, and now we're right in the middle. As you can see, Jack's Donuts, we've done stories on that place. We're trying to back up. We were so much for social distancing, but Jack's Donuts right now, they are breaking the windows. Those are residences above this. I know the guy who owns this Jack's Donuts actually lives in this building. This is what's happening live right now in downtown Indianapolis. All of this tonight Daryl, all of this tonight, I hear you. None of this happened until 5 minutes before we came on the air when police tear gassed everyone, and that's what set this off. This has been completely peaceful. It has now turned dangerous and violent as windows and buildings are now being smashed and you hear alarms going off. Now Indianapolis is now starting to feel a bit like Minneapolis tonight. Reporting live in downtown Indianapolis, I'm Cameron Murrow, RTV6.
Tonight, protesters taking to the streets here in Indianapolis.
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Only when someone's killed.
And in cities from coast to coast.
It should matter every day.
Now at 11. The message those marching want you to hear.
This is breaking news from RTV6, working for you.
Indianapolis among several American cities dealing with fallout from the recent death of George Floyd, a Minneapolis man who died in police custody. You're looking live right now at pictures in downtown Indianapolis where police are trying to disperse crowds. Like last night, the protests have turned violent with police having to use tear gas on those protesters. Things started to spiral out of control just over an hour ago. This is video from our photojournalist right in the thick of it. A fire set in the middle of Pennsylvania Street. Thank you so much for joining us tonight at 11. I'm Nicole Griffin.
And I'm Rafael Sanchez from my temporary home studio as we continue to social distance. Our city tonight is in crisis. Tonight, voices demanding action, demanding justice. At the same time, businesses are being vandalized. Tensions are high for the second straight night here in the Circle City. Let me take you outside right now to show you what is happening in Indianapolis. Tear gas in many sections of the downtown area. For the second night, police are having to deal with protesters, in many cases, who have gotten out of hand. The police turned to that tear gas to get the crowds to leave and just break them up and move them out of downtown Indianapolis. There are reports right now, Nicole, I just got a couple of calls of fires in the downtown area, as well as people shattering windows to vehicles and businesses. It is quite dangerous in this section of downtown. This is exactly what the mayor and police chief were hoping would not happen. They did not want to see this tonight. Even local clergy urged for a peaceful demonstration, but those calls, Nicole, were ignored.
In Raphael, our Kelsey Anderson begins our team coverage tonight. Kelsey, you've been in the thick of these protests all day long. How are these protesters reacting to tonight's event so far, and what are you seeing at this hour?
Hey, Nicole, so we have talked to several protesters who are walking by us as we're standing kind of back away from the action now after having some tear gas and pepper bullets kind of come in our area. So protesters, a lot of them are upset that this happened because they wanted to come out here for a peaceful protest. And it was peaceful for the first 7 hours. I would say it started about 2 o'clock. That's when we got out here. There was a couple protesters on the circle. They marched around the city for 7 hours. In groups of hundreds, maybe even thousands of people out here marching, trying to get their message across that Black Lives Matter. But then here on Market Street in Delaware, right around 9 o'clock outside the CCB, that's when things turned violent. We'll send it to the side of earlier today when we were live streaming all the events.
We plan on staying peaceful all night. We're not breaking down anything. Plan on staying as peaceful as possible. With that being said, if things get outrageous, hopefully they'll die down.
Where, as you can see here, we've got police in gas masks, and they've got their masks on. They just got on the intercom saying this is no longer a peaceful protest. Things did get a little out of hand right here, but the organizers did move everyone down to a different street. But as you can see, there are still some people here talking with police, yelling at police, trying to get everything. People are running. Okay. They are shooting. Mike, get back. Mike, get back. They are shooting now. Mike, get back. Go. There's someone arrested already.
So that was a look from earlier today around 9 o'clock, again, just 2 hours ago. And things right here on this street where things started up at 9 o'clock have settled down. But on other streets, Pennsylvania, Raphael showed you earlier, there were fires. But looking down the alley now, I see that has kind of settled down a little bit. It looks like cars are now going down that street, but police are still out here and they are still active today. But also out here with me today, starting today at 2 o'clock, was our colleague, my colleague Megan Sanctorum. She's over at the War Memorial with an update for you.
Yeah, Kelsey, that's right. We're at the War Memorial right now, and it was pretty quiet. We actually moved north a little bit ago for safety reasons. Oh, and if you take a look, you can see the protest is actually moving up Pennsylvania. This is Indiana State Police. You can see them over there. So we were a couple blocks south of it. Oh, there are people running right behind us. We may need to step out of the way. So we're standing right behind our car right now. You can see Indiana State Police right in front of the War Memorial. There are some protesters across the street on Pennsylvania. That's what you're looking at right now. So this is a little bit north of where all of that action was earlier. And like I was saying, we actually moved north for safety reasons because we were kind of getting in the middle of a couple of very tense groups. We kept getting tear gassed, and we just moved out of the way here. And now it looks like some of the crowd is starting to move north. This isn't a super huge group. I'd say maybe 20 or 30 people over there. We'll stay out here, though, and keep watching this situation. We'll bring you updates as we get them. Reporting live, Megan Sanctorum, RTV6.
Megan, thank you so much. This does remain a fluid, breaking news, developing story. I can tell you that while Megan was talking, I was getting here at my location reports of now damage to the Whole Foods in downtown Indianapolis, as well as looting at the TJ Maxx on Illinois Street, as well as police cars having their windows shattered on Georgia Street, and even more damage being reported to businesses on Monument Circle. In fact, our Troy Washington spoke to some shop owners on Monument Circle earlier today, and they can't even begin to comprehend what is going on.
At least 30 businesses barely scraping by because of the COVID-19 pandemic, now shaken by this. Broken glass and looting made moving forward even more difficult.
This is devastating, and how do you recover from this? We were already 2 months behind.
It took the light of day to reveal the damage left behind after protesters took to the streets of Indianapolis, angry about the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis.
I don't know what the answer is, but this is not the answer. Destroying our downtown, destroying anything is not the answer.
It's especially hard to process for those who had to watch things unravel. Chris Carnavis is the owner of Jack's Donuts. He's closed today, cleaning up his shop. Last night, he watched helplessly as people stole from his store and broke out his windows.
It was like being in a war zone. I mean, there was, they were pepper spraying the whole entire downtown. I mean, there was fires everywhere, alarms going off, windows are being broken, stuff's being, turned upside down. I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Other shop owners are just as afraid.
There was a situation that was unjust. A man died, was murdered that shouldn't have been. If this continues, his death will go, there'll be no reason for it. Nobody will remember that name.
Window repair companies worked quickly to repair the damage, wondering if they'll be right back where they started tomorrow. Working for you downtown, Troy Washington, RTV6.
Troy, there is more damage downtown. There will have to be more to be repaired in the days to come. Mayor Joe Hogsett has promised to help those businesses impacted by the vandalism. He says he will help them rebound. That's what's happening in Indianapolis. But let me take you coast to coast to show you what is happening tonight all across America. But first, let me take you to Johnson County. While some businesses are cleaning up damage caused by Friday night's protest, others boarded up in hopes of preventing damage. This is how the Greenwood Park Mall looked much of the day. The mall closed early today to recent events. The mall, of course, here in Johnson County. Greenwood police telling RTV6 that closing early and boarding up the storefronts was the mall's decision.
right, Dave. Dave, come this way. Okay, Dave, to your left, to your left. All right. Okay. Hey, we are right in the middle of this. As I said, we tried to get we were at the back, and now we're right in the middle. As you can see, Jack's Donuts, we've done stories on that place. We're trying to back up. We were so much for social distancing, but Jack's Donuts right now, they are breaking the windows. Those are residences above this. I know the guy who owns this Jack's Donuts actually lives in this building. This is what's happening live right now in downtown Indianapolis. All of this tonight, Daryl, all of this tonight, I hear you. None of this happened until 5 minutes before we came on the air when police tear gassed everyone. And that's what set this off. This has been completely peaceful. It has now turned dangerous and violent as windows and buildings are now being smashed and you hear alarms going off. Now Indianapolis is now starting to feel a bit like Minneapolis tonight.